What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. We need to talk about Mark Carney. I know, we never do, right? We got to talk about what's happening with the economy because the economy is going in the toilet. Jobs are going out the windows. Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria. I know, the Ghostbusters reference. It's Halloween. I get away with it. It's okay. Let's talk about what's happening. Because what you're seeing in the media and what you're going to see in the mainstream media, I know a lot of people on this channel don't watch the mainstream media, but if you talk to people who do, if you're in and around with others, we need to talk about what they're going to be peddling and what they're going to be pushing towards you is that everything that's happening in the world is Donald Trump's fault. We saw this during the federal election. This is how Mark Carney got in. This is how Doug Ford got reelected. You've got them using Trump derangement syndrome against Canadians, essentially saying that the last 10 years under Justin Trudeau, the mass printing of money, the open borders of immigrants swarming into the country, all of that had nothing to do with our economy destabilizing, people losing their jobs, jobs leaving the country, people moving out of the country. None of it had to do with any of those bad policies or bad leadership. It all had to do with just a couple of months of Donald Trump being president in the United States. We've already seen the Liberals, as of yesterday, attacking Pierre Poilievre, saying don't make comments on Northern Perspective because that's Trump-style politics. Oh, it's just another MAGA thing. They love using TDS to get ahead. But now Mark Carney has insulted Donald Trump. They're picking a fight here with a bear using a twig to essentially try and get what they want from their voters. They're not going to get what they want in terms of a deal. They're not going to get what they want in terms of the economy. Let's take a look at what's going on here. I want to give a shout out to Yasin Boko, who sends me a lot of information on X. Thank you so much for that. This post from Table Salt. Donald Trump calls out Doug Ford's anti-tariff ad. Canada's taking out ads. It's important to notice that Trump knows what's going on. He doesn't like it. But Mark Carney throws caution to the wind by insulting him after. I'm going to get to that. Let's start with Trump. Take a look at this.
We're the most successful. We're believers in tariffs. And I even see foreign countries now that we are doing very well with taking ads. Don't go with tariffs. They're taking ads. I saw an ad last night from Canada. If I was Canada, I'd take that same ad also. But they're actually on television taking ads. But I do believe that everybody's too smart for that. We have a very, very big and important case coming up. We should win the case based on the legal merit. We should also win the case based on all of the things you'll see.
So he's mentioning Doug Ford's ads that he's taking out about the tariffs. Don't go with America. Buy Canadian. You remember Doug Ford's Chinese hats that were made in China? Canada's not for sale. Little hypocrisy there. Doug Ford will not get off this wagon because it's essentially what's keeping him in. In fact, a new poll went out saying that if Doug Ford held another election today, he'd win by a landslide. There's two reasons for that. He's a liberal. Everybody knows he's a liberal. Second of all, he'd win because he's using Trump. Just like Mark Carney will. A lot of people are talking about an election coming up. I'm going to get into that in a later video today when we talk about the budget. Make sure you come back for that video. But the reason we can't have an election right now, the reason we have to wait for the budget, the reason we have to wait for everything to crumble in Mark Carney's house of cards is because if they have an election tomorrow, they're going to use all this with Donald Trump to get Mark Carney a majority government. It's going to happen. We can't go to the polls yet. I've got Yazin Boko also sending me this one via Ryan Garrettson. Great account on X, by the way. Carney at a Diwali celebration jokingly claims he's controlling Trump without him knowing. This will sure help our relationship with him. He then goes into his tired usual lines. This guy's in campaign mode. Now, I agree. Off this video, he's in campaign mode. Because a lot of people are saying that a campaign is on the way, that we're going to go back to the polls. Again, I think we need to wait for the budget. We need to wait for the country to be able to see that Mark Carney can't get a deal done, that nothing is going to benefit Canadians. And when I say that, I'm not talking about the common sense Canadians that watch this channel. I'm talking about the Canadians who have their elbows up, who huff their farts, who think that they know everything about politics, who vote on good looks and transgender rights over policy. Those people are going to have to go through hard times and see that they're losing their homes, their jobs, their livelihoods in order to start voting on another end of the scale. So it's important we wait for that budget to come through before we go back to the polls. Take a look at Carney. It's embarrassing.
We can't control. I can't control Donald Trump. I got to tell you. Actually, I can't let him think I'm controlling him. Is maybe a better way to do it.
I can't let him think that we're. I mean, come on, Mark. Come on. He's gone down there twice, and sat in the Oval Office and been spanked both times by Daddy. He's been told there's no deals. We're not doing any deals. We're not doing nothing with tariffs. It's not on the table. It's just the way it is. He's being told, I mean, Trump made fun of his transgender kid right to his face. And the guy, and he sits on a stage and says this. Hang on, let's go through it again. Let's go through it again.
We can't control. I can't control Donald Trump. I got to tell you. Actually, I can't let him think I'm controlling him. Is maybe a better way to do it.
If I was Donald Trump, I would come back with 100% tariffs. I would come back and slap Mark in the face. Say, you want to make fun of me, Mark? I'm going to show you how this works. Totally. No remorse. Give him the works. This is the problem, is that while Mark Carney jokes about that, he smiles about that, he goes to Diwali celebrations. Of course he's at Diwali. He's brought all those people in. Here's the real problem. Here's where things are, and this is where I say we need to wait for a budget. We need to wait for things to come forward in the government before we go back to the polls. This is what we already knew, but wow. After 11 years of liberal rule, Canada has dropped from 3rd in the world for prosperity to 36th. 36th in the world. So while they say, well, we got the best deal out of everybody on the tariffs, well, we're so much in the G7, come on. Watch this.
Okay, next generation of Canadians, what do they think about their standard of living? Where do they expect to be?
These are killer stats, Roger. You know, we track every 90 days. We ask Canadians whether they think that the next generation will have a higher, lower, or the same standard of living. In the latest round that we just completed a couple weeks ago, 8%, Roger. Only 8% think that the next generation will have a higher standard of living. Almost 2 out of every 3 Canadians, 64%, think that the next generation will have a lower standard of living. And, you know, the thing is, that negativity on the lower standard of living has increased since the election from 59 to 64. Now,
so those are huge jumps. And again, I'm going to let them wrap up and finish here as we get to being 36th in the world. But over 50% of the people polled think that, hey, the next generation's screwed. This is why we talk about independence on this channel. This is why we talk about provinces breaking off. People are starting to wake up and they're starting to see that, hey, things ain't going to change anytime soon. This is the new, I keep saying that when you go back to the Vegas days of the mob and the rackets that they ran in Vegas, that's what the government is now. They're the new form of the mob. They're just here to get rich off of taxpayers and get out. And people are starting to see that. But you need the elbows up crowd in places like Toronto, again, to start seeing just how bad it's going to get before you're going to see any kind of change at the polls. Again, I'm going to tell you why I don't think that's going to happen in a video later today when we talk about the budget. So make sure to come back again for that one. But I'm going to let them wrap up, and then we got more to talk about as to why Trump should be slapping Mark Carney silly.
one way to look at it, if we go like way back, you know, the thing is that, you know, we see that those negative numbers have been as high as 70, but the fact of the matter is today, Canadians are 8 times more likely to think that the next generation will have a lower standard of living.
That is an incredible swing in 13 years. When was the last time, do you have the numbers on when it was this bad?
Well, when Justin Trudeau was Prime Minister.
Is that when it was?
Yeah, well, when he was Prime Minister, things there was a lot of negativity. Actually, it was more negative when he was Prime Minister, and you know, just before the election, the numbers were, I think, at around 70. 70% in terms of lower when we look back at the March numbers. But they improved a little bit, and now they're kind of they're going back into negative territory, Roger.
So they're going back into negative territory, but keep in mind this is nanos on this. So what you can take from that is that nanos typically polls people in the areas where the per capita vote matters the most. So we talk about Toronto, Hamilton, Windsor, Southern Ontario, where the largest population of Canada resides that affects the per capita vote when we go to the polls. So good news, folks, is that it's starting to show people are waking up a bit. People are starting to see the reality that, hey, our elbows are sore. We're not getting a deal anytime soon. Everything's leaving the country. And rightfully so. Mark Carney, who copies everybody, who plagiarizes everybody, moved his company to the United States. It says here, listen to what this Canadian business leader is saying. Canada's top talent is packing up and building their dreams elsewhere. When investors leave, the future leaves with them. This is the future of Canada. This is why people feel the next generation is screwed. Just take a listen to what this guy says. He talks about opportunities in Canada, but then he gets to the real, the reality of the situation.
Number one, you're seeing a lot of high potential people leave. So the question is not what are the other 90% of people doing. It's what are the top 10% of people who are likely to create outsized returns doing. And so part of the issue is a lot of those folks have left the country. So they're still starting their businesses, but instead of starting them here, they're starting them elsewhere. And so therefore, you have less high quality opportunities to invest in. So I think part of it is just the talent migration is creating less opportunities. I'm of the view that outside very early stage investing, good Canadian companies can find capital, not only just from Canadian investors, but from U.S. and international investors. So,
international and U.S. investors. So what you're seeing here, folks, is again that 10% he's talking about, and we're going to get to that because the big players are starting to leave. We've seen Honda pack up. We've seen steel companies pack up. Everybody knows where I'm going with this. Ontario jobs that are the main driving focus for guys like Doug Ford are packing up and leaving for greener pastures. Because Donald Trump, like it or not, ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump has made America great again. He's made it attractive to do business in the United States. Canadians, if you have a Canadian company, and again, when I went to business school, one of the things we were told is that most people who do startups, most people who go into business for themselves typically do it during a recession. They typically do it when things are down because there's a lengthy period when you start up a company or get your feet in the ground that you essentially go without getting a paycheck. So people took on down times to start those businesses because there's no opportunities for them elsewhere. But those people are still starting them up, as this gentleman says, and moving to the United States. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. This, again, I'm going to get to the jobs in a second. But this is where Canada is. I cry every night in bed. I pray to God I find a home. A 77-year-old homeless Canadian resident. The government did this so that Tim Hortons franchise owners could keep their labor costs down. Our dollars have been devalued by the printing of money. The overabundance of money being printed to line the pockets of our Canadians. Or our Canadian representatives, sorry. You've also got mass importation of 2 to 3 million low-cost laborers via the Temporary Foreign Workers Program. Student visa programs to keep wages and inflation, or wage inflation itself down. That's the big problem here. Listen to what this person says.
This is where we're living.
In this tent lives 77-year-old Judy Howe with her 80-year-old partner George, a situation she never imagined to be in. She says they had an apartment in Halifax before the building was sold and to be torn down. After that, they went to Ontario to be with George's dying mother, but they couldn't afford to stay there and chose to return to Halifax.
It's not home. You know, it's not a place you can cook a meal for yourself. You can take a shower. We go up to the Y on Park Street here. I always get lost trying to find my way out.
I can't even I can't even watch it further than that because it is so upsetting that this is what our country has turned into. 10 years ago, this was not a problem in our country. You didn't see tents everywhere. You didn't see people being forced out of their homes. I've often said, you know, when you talk about pensions, when you talk about old age security, when you talk about how we treat our veterans in this country, $8,000 a month goes to migrants so that the Liberals can secure more votes and fast track their citizenship, while good people like this are forced to live in tents. They're told, thank you for contributing to our tax system for all of those years you worked in this country. You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir. $8,000 a month to immigrants. Well, people again are waking up. Businesses are waking up. Here's JGenX. Great news, unless you're Canadian. Due to Carney being such a weak ass and is too scared to negotiate with Trump, remember again, he's trying to convince Trump that he's controlling him, resulting in GM has decided to ship 1,750 jobs down to Indiana. This was at the beginning of October. There's more with GM, though. It's not just these 1,750 jobs. Guess just transition means just leave Canada. Carney's economy is like a Jenga tower built on wishful thinking and ESG buzzwords. How's that economic leadership working out for you now, Canada? I wonder if Doug Ford will burn or smash a Silverado on TV today. Again, referencing Crown Royal and all the other companies he's sandbagged. GM moved almost 2,000 jobs at the beginning of the month down to Indiana. Now it's getting even bigger than that. GM has shut down their electric vehicle plant. And while the Liberals are going to try to use Donald Trump as their scapegoat, General Motors comes out to say production halt has nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with their bottom line. And that's essentially what all this is. This is how you know your economy is failing. And it doesn't matter how bad your TDS is, it's economics. Who wants to work for next to nothing when you can make more money doing half the work elsewhere? Reports say more than 1,000 jobs are at risk, but the auto manufacturer insists commercial demand supply is not there. I've been told almost 7,000 jobs are at risk. It says here 1,000. I've been told that's closer to 7. General Motors is ending production of the Bright Drop electric delivery vans at the Cami assembly plant in Ingersoll, Ontario. A move that puts more than 1,000 jobs at risk and marks another setback for Ontario's automotive sector. The company cited lower than expected demand for the commercial electric vehicles as the reason for the shutdown. Well, we all know that. You can't run electric vehicles in minus 30. They're not effective in Canada. I've always said I'm all for green energy. I'm all for alternative resources. But the reality, folks, oil and gas is what we use right now. Alberta uses it the most responsibly in the world, the cleanest in the world. That should be the green initiative. That should be the plan moving forward. If we have to use the resources, let's use them ethically. Let's use them as clean as possible so that we can leave the world in a good place. We research future technologies, and when those technologies are available, sure, we move off of oil and gas. When it makes sense. But until then, you have to recognize the elephant in the room, folks. Everything we do today is oil and gas. Your phones, your jackets, your computers, all of it, byproducts of oil. GM woke up and said, we can't do this anymore. But keep in mind, GM got a whole bunch of kickbacks from the Canadian government, from the Trudeau government, before they packed up all these jobs and left. So they're getting a double dip here. They're getting better conditions in America. And they also got billions in tax write-offs. The company cited lower than expected demand for the commercial electric vehicles as the reason for the shutdown, according to reports by Financial Post and the Clown Broadcasting Corporation. Production had already been paused in May when workers were temporarily laid off, and the plant is scheduled to restart in November with a single shift. Now GM says there's no immediate plans for production at the facility at all. You've got Melanie Joly and others coming back and saying, oh, we're going to tell them to honor that commitment. We're going to stick the boots to them. But there's going to be real repercussions for going to America. Why? First off, no, there's not. You have no power here. You're playing poker with a pair of threes. There's nothing going on here. Companies have the right to move, and they have the right to go to greener pastures when their bottom line is affected. We've entered an era where we have more than 10 years of corrupt liberal governments ruining our economy, printing money, donating to launder in other countries, opening the doors to immigration, devaluing our money. And it shocks me that it's just now some of those elbows up people are starting to open their eyes and realize when our jobs go out the window, when the Green Initiative fails, when Mark Carney's values go out the window, this is what we have. We reap what we sow. This is what we've wrought. I think things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. But the silver lining, folks, is that it does need to get worse for people to wake up and for people to vote for some form of change when we get to another election. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. I've stretched this video out far enough. I know we had a lot to talk about. Let me know your thoughts down below. If it's your first time here, I hope this video's earned your subscription. Make sure to hit that button. Leave a thumbs up or a comment down below. It helps drive this video out for those who haven't seen videos on this channel or those who want to get the information. Join me live twice a weekly on the channel. Tonight for Unhinged Fringe, Fridays for Friday Night Fringe, as I'm joined by the beautiful Mrs. Fringe on Fridays as we talk about everything that happened this week in politics, everything we know coming up in the week ahead, as well as Q&A on both live streams within the greatest YouTube community on the platform. I look forward to chatting with you guys always outside of making these videos. I most importantly look forward to hearing what you have to say tonight and every Wednesday and Friday night, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, here on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.